Call the roll.
Mr. Martinez.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez-Pina. Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Pago.
Here.
Mr. Vasquez.
Here by phone.
Ms. Gutierrez. Mr. Ferre.
Yes.
We have a quorum, sir.
Do we have a quorum? Great.
Yes.
Declaration of voting conflicts. Any potential conflicts, please declare them at this time.
Do any committee members have any conflicts which they need to declare? Please note for the minutes that there's no comments were
Is
necessary.
there any public comments today? I have not received any information that the public wishes to speak to us. I just want to verify that. Anyone here from the public that wishes to be heard on any of the agenda matters? Hearing none. Operations action items. A, the approval of the summary minutes. Is that, moved by Vice Chair Ferre. Seconded by Secretary Pago. Any objection? Hearing none, they are approved. Action item B, MDX procurement contract number MDX 15-109, software and hardware maintenance service for open road tolling ORT system on SR 112 and SR 836. Mr. Director, who is going to make the presentation for staff?
Mr. Toledo is going to lead the conversation on this.
Good morning, Mr. Toledo.
Good morning, board members, committee members. Requested action is a motion to endorse. This is a sole source contract with TransCore LP to provide software and hardware maintenance services for the Infinity Open Road Tolling ORT system on State Road 112 and 836. It also provides monitoring of the system through the Central Processing Center, CPC, and the Maintenance Management Center, the MMC. On February 12th of this year, MDX executed the First Amendment to the Cooperative Purchase Agreement with TransCore using the DOT contract BDH 83. Basically, so it's a piggyback contract that we have with the Turnpike for the installation of the Infinity Open Road Tolling System for State Road 112 and 836. At the time of that approval, we informed the committee at that time that we would be coming back at a later date with the maintenance contract, the standalone maintenance contract for the Infinity system, and that's what we have with you today. We were waiting to bring that back because TransCore was currently negotiating their maintenance contract with the Turnpike, and what we wanted to make sure we did is that we took advantage of any economy of scales as a result of that maintenance contract and leveraging the fact that they're already going to be here in Florida doing maintenance on the Turnpike system to see how we would benefit from that, and I'm happy to say that we are taking advantage of that, and it was negotiated in this contract. The contract, as I said, is for the maintenance of the ORT lanes. It also includes the future lanes that are going to be added as part of the 836-28 and the 836-29 project. So all the lanes on 836 and State Road 112 will be covered under this maintenance contract. It's for software and hardware. It also includes taking over the existing legacy system, which is on 97th Avenue and 137th Avenue. Once the system goes live, they would also revert to maintaining the software on that until we convert 97th and 137th, which we anticipate will happen sometime in early or late spring of 2015. Excuse me. The contract is for 7 years with an optional 3 one-year renewals. It includes a 3% escalation or CPI, the lesser of the two. So at no time will we pay more than 3% escalation on a yearly basis. The 7-year term is the contract amount for the initial 7-year term is $13.1 million, including all the approved, and it also includes all the approved escalation. So this is a not to exceed amount. Given the proprietary nature of the ORT system, of the Infinity ORT system, we recommend this sole source contract with TransCore for the maintenance services as detailed in the scope of services. TransCore has committed a 10% small business participation on the MOT, or the maintenance of traffic portions of the services. Right now, that's about a $2.1 million over the 7 years. So if we did the entire amount, you're looking at $219,000 that would go to MOT, and it's only focused on that because that's the part that we could exercise the small business piece.
And just for clarification, for those who may not know what MOT stands for, could you?
Maintenance of traffic. That's my story.
I'd like the record to reflect that Vice Chairman of the Operations Committee, Rick Rodriguez-Pina, has entered, as well as Chairperson Maritza Gutierrez as well. May they be added to the rolls as being present for today's meeting. Any questions to Mr. Toledo on action item B? None for anyone here. Mr. Vasquez, on the phone, do you have any questions?
None.
Hearing none, does anyone wish to move this? Moved by Vice Chair Ferre, seconded by Secretary Pago. Anyone in opposition? Hearing none, the item is so passed. Action item C, MDX procurement contract number RFP 11-2, MDX work program number 83629.020, design engineering services for the reconstruction of Northwest 87th Avenue, interchange at State Road 836. For the remainder of, briefly, I'm going to hand this over to you, Mr. Rodriguez-Pina. I need to make a call.
Mr. Chairman, again, Mr. Toledo is going to lead us in this conversation.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I just, Francine has correctly suggested that we should check with Mr. Rodriguez-Pina and with the chair just to confirm that there's no conflicts. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Francine.
Of myself or any other members, and what is your?
The rest of them it did at the beginning of the meeting, but because you came late, I just wanted to make sure that it was on the record.
I understand it. So the question is, there's anybody has a conflict at this moment that needs to declare?
Right. Everybody except for the two of you came a little bit late have declared. Okay, great. Thank you.
Committee members, this is a motion to endorse the Fourth Amendment to the contract with APCT Engineering for the design of the 87th Avenue and State Road 836 improvements. This is a Fourth Amendment that includes modifications to the contract which modify traffic control plans to facilitate the new temporary gantry location being designed under the MDX project 83631. This amendment also includes the negotiated amount for the post-design services to be utilized for design support during construction phase, which was not included in the original contract. The original contract amount was for $5.6 million. A second amendment to the contract agreement added $554,000 back about a couple of years ago, where we did the analysis. We were far along enough in the design that we were able to negotiate the design of the noise walls that we're implementing in the project, and that was the change for the second amendment. This Fourth Amendment is for $880,000. $828,000 of that is for the post-design services. This is for the services that we'll be utilizing during construction, for requests for information that may come up during the project, any changes that the engineers of record would have to work on. That's covered under post-design. $51,000 of that is for the traffic control plan modifications as a result of the temporary gantries and the coordination for the ORT. The small business requirement of 14 and local business requirement of 15 will be met on the lump sum design work. On the post-design services, the responses to the RFIs and shop drawings have to be completed by the specific companies that did that work. So those percentages wouldn't be applied to the post-design services, but we'd be tracking that to see how that gets done. RFIs are requests for information that usually come up during the construction process that the contractors might have, given the circumstances of the conditions of the roadway at the time that they start building the road. There is the budget is currently within the 5-year work program. What we're going to be doing is just moving monies around within the project budget to be able to make up the differences.
Is that from?
That is all from me.
Any questions?
Yep.
Mr. Rodriguez-Pina?
Juan, so this is basically an addendum or amendment to the existing contract. What
That is
we're
correct.
proposing here, and it's the amount of $880,959.
That's correct.
Saying that we have the budget wherewithal to do this and has been properly allocated to meet this demand.
That is correct. The monies are currently within the project budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
To
Mr.
clarify, just so that everyone's understood, when we awarded this contract and we negotiated this contract, we always contemplated post-design services, which is typically a percentage of the design. but not executed. What
Correct.
we're doing now is based on the current design, based on what will be going out to construction, is executing the piece of the post-design services as a limiting amount. And since the design has increased, the post-design services increased commensurate with the construction project that will be built.
Any questions based upon that? Mr. Vasquez, do you have any questions?
Negative.
Sir, hearing no questions, does anyone wish to?
I'll
Ms.
move.
Chairperson Gutierrez, you?
Yeah, I'm just going to say something for the record. Based on what the executive director just said, that in this contract, we contemplated that there was going to be something like this. I think that from now on, when there is a contract that is put out and it's given, that if something of this nature, we won't know the money, but we will know that this contract does include something like this, it's being said at that precise time. Because if not, you can tend to feel uncomfortable that something is being given to a contractor that wasn't really planned. It just feels like, here's a cookie, an extra cookie, and I got this contract. But given that the executive director said, I'm swallowing a little easier.
Very good. Anyone else? Mr. Rodriguez-Pena.
Just move the item.
Moving the item, Mr. Rodriguez-Pena, seconded by Secretary Pago. Discussion is closed. Anyone have any opposition? Hearing no opposition, the item passes unanimously. Action item D, MDX procurement contract number RFQ 15-05, miscellaneous materials, engineering, and testing services. Is this Mr. Toledo again?
Yes.
This is the Toledo Show, starring Juan Toledo.
Thank you. Committee members, this is a motion to approve the approval to advertise for the request for qualifications for material and engineering and testing services, the evaluation criteria for the RFQ, and as well as the technical evaluation committee composition. Essentially, this is a pool of contracts that we have to deal with material engineering and material testing on all of our construction projects. The current contracts have already exhausted all their renewal options. They've all been performing very well through that time, but since we've exhausted all the renewal options, we have to go back out to the street with these contracts so that we have material testing coverage for the remainder of the work program or the entire work program as we continue to put out these projects. Again, the services is for material testing and engineering services. The contract is for, it's an initial term of 3 years with 2 additional 1-year terms. The contract has a maximum budget of $700,000 over the 3 years for each of the contracts, and that basically covers us for the 3 years. Typically, we're spending about $150,000 to $200,000 a year per firm for the contracts that we've been putting out there for the projects that they're doing, and that covers a variety of the work program projects. There is a hold on a second. There's a 10% small business participation requirement for all the firms. The technical evaluation committee makeup is a board member oversight, the MDX assistant director of engineering, a DOT District 6 representative, and a Turnpike representative.
Okay. So I get to appoint a board member today?
You get to assign a board member today.
Yes, sir. I would be glad to
I'm
take it.
appointing Rick Rodriguez-Pena as the oversight.
Sure.
Of course, you're going to have some questions. Is that all? Is that the completion of your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have, if I may, I'm going to ask the first question, then I'll go to you, Mr. Rodriguez-Pena. The $700,000, is that for all of the possible testing services, or is that like for each individual thing, or is that an umbrella amount?
The $700,000 covers the 3 years per contract. So we've had a pool of 3. So each firm will have a cap of $700,000 to over the 3 years to perform the material testing and engineering services on the projects.
Okay.
And that's basically assigned through task authorizations. And that's the threshold. We wouldn't exceed the $700,000 threshold over the 3 years.
And what does staff believe that doing it this way, in the way we used to do it, which were individually, like you were mentioning, $100,000 to $200,000 per account, how are we saving money by doing it this way?
Well, this is the same way we've been doing it.
Okay.
This doesn't change what we've been doing. Nothing's changed. This is exactly the way we've been doing it for the last 5 years.
Okay. Does staff believe that there's a more economical way that we can do this? Is there a way we could do it in a way where we package it to somebody and offer the opportunity to do it and have that way, or is this possibly the most economical way to handle this type of issue?
This is it's a specialized type of service, and it's done under CCNA, so that's why it's a request for qualification. So once CCNA is the Helen, can you help me out with the
Competitive Consultants Negotiation Act.
Competitive Negotiation Act.
Right. Okay.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. And many of us who are on the dais understand
once
what
we
these terms
select
mean,
the
but I'd
pool,
like to
we would
propose-
negotiate the rates. It's engineering services, so the rates are typically standard engineering rates that we would negotiate with all the firms. And what we try to do is that we try to keep them all, we'll negotiate it so that they're all kind of on an even keel. And then we assign the work so that everybody gets, we distribute the work equally amongst all the firms so that everybody's getting a fair share.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez-Pena?
One, is it typical to have 10%? I thought we have a usually higher percentage of small business participation, or is this standard?
On this contract, 10% is reasonable because of the specialized nature of the service. If you try to increase it, then it's going to be more difficult to meet any percentage over the 10. That's also one of the reasons we only have the small business participation, because not a lot of the firms that do this are registered locally. So we're sticking to the 10% small business in this case.
Thank you.
Secretary Pago, Ms. Chairperson, Chairwoman Gutierrez, any questions?
No, I heard it.
Sorry, I stole your thunder.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, I was getting to you, Mr. Vasquez. Do you have any questions?
No, it's okay. It's just that I'm having to step into a client meeting, and I try to stay on as long as I can, but I'm having to sign off, okay?
Thank you for your participation. We really appreciate it, Javier. Have a wonderful day.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
To clarify, board members, the $700,000 is an upper limit. In the past, we have not met that upper limit in certain cases. So we set a contract limit for the 3 firms for the pool, and what we've seen in the past is that covers us for the work that we have in our construction program.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Anyone wish to move the item?
Let me, a quick
I'm sorry,
question,
Mr.
quick question.
Rodriguez-Pena has one more
So
comment.
it's $700,000 per year?
No,
Total?
for the initial 3 years.
Okay, so it's $233,000 per year, basically, potentially, up to the maximum cap.
Or we can spend $700,000 on one firm,
I got it.
and then they can't do anything else
Move
because
the
they've
item
met
up.
their cap.
Good, thank you.
By Mr. Rodriguez-Pena, seconded by Secretary Pago. Discussion being closed. Anyone in opposition? Hearing none, the item passes unanimously. Excuse me. Action item E, MDX work program number 83603, R836, SR112, interconnector joint participation agreement and roadway transfer agreement for Lejeune collector distributor roads between the Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, and the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. Mr. Toledo, I'm guessing it's your show.
Yes, sir. Committee members, this is a request. The requested action is a motion to endorse for board approval the 3rd supplemental to the joint participation agreement with Florida Department of Transportation for the funding of right-of-way acquisition, design, and construction for the Miami Intermodal Center, as well as a motion to endorse for MDX approval the roadway transfer agreement for Lejeune Road Collectors Distributor Roads, or the roadway transfer agreement. Included in this, there are 2 separate items. The first one is the JPA Third Amendment between MDX and DOT. The original JPA and the first supplemental, dated in April 2001 and October 2002, provided for the joint funding mechanism for right-of-way acquisition and design and construction by DOT of the collector distributor roads to access the Miami International Airport and the MIC from 836. A second supplemental dated August 21st, 2007 allowed DOTs to shift funds already approved under this agreement to construct projects added within the corridor as a result of MDX deferral of plans for the ultimate interconnector. These projects were coordinated between DOT and MDX at that time. This third supplemental, essentially what it does is that it cleans up how the monies were spent to be in accordance with the original JPA language. So if you looked at page 5 of the Third Amendment, you see a table that was prepared jointly between in coordination with MDX and DOT, and it shows how, where all the monies that we contributed went to with the proper FN numbers for DOT. And that basically cleans up and complies with the original language in the JPA. The second part of this item is for the road.
How much money?
$86.5 million.
How many?
$86.5 million to the Florida Department of Transportation.
And we're giving you more than 86.
That's the
And who takes it back?
second part of this item is the roadway transfer agreement, which is the final step required to complete the terms of the original JPA. Basically, the transfer agreement, what it says is that MDX is taking the collector distributor roads and all the right-of-way up to Lejeune. It preserves a 10-foot easement for DOT along Lejeune Road on both sides so that they can do the maintenance of the curb and drainage features along for the Lejeune Road proper. All these agreements are in substantial form. We're finalizing the exhibits that give you the delineations of right-of-way and maintenance. And we expect to be able to have all that completed before the end of the month. And this is, again, this item is really just to clean up this project number on our side and be able to close it out and put it on the books as an asset.
Thank you, Mr. Toledo. Ms. Schaefer, do you need to add anything to what Mr. Toledo has presented from Finance? Thank you. Let's start with any questions.
Yeah, board members, clarification.
Yeah.
All the construction for all of this work has been done. It's actually been done like 3 years already. It was the interchange of 21st Street at Lejeune and the two collector distributors that connect 21st Street to 836. So all the work has been done. This is basically cleaning up the terms of the JPA and then executing the transfer. So
In other words, this is a great example of the state and local working together hand in hand to make sure it's best for the people.
Exactly.
Great. Ms. Gutierrez? No. That was what you wanted. Anyone else have any questions?
I don't have a question, just a commentary.
Of course, Secretary.
Reviewing documents, so there might be some little tweaks here and there. Work hard on this state question. Okay, but work hard. But just for everyone's knowledge, is that the whole program was for the benefit of the airport, our number one economic engine, to decongest the airport and keep it survivable for the long term. So,
Those that live here know how incredibly important it is to make that more tourist-friendly and business-friendly as we can. It's absolutely important. Does anyone else have any other comments? Hearing none, I close discussion. Anyone wish to move the item? Moved by Mr. Rodriguez-Pina, seconded by Chairwoman Gutierrez. Discussion closed. Hearing any opposition? Hearing none, the item passes unanimously. Excellent work on both sides, and congratulations.
Board members, if everything is finished by the 21st, the board meeting, what we'll do is that we will include in the package a red line so you can see whatever changes happen from this substantial form. It'll be easy to track anything that was modified from today, and that's for your benefit. Okay?
Thank you very much. Discussion item, Row Incentive Program for MDX Project 836-628 SR 836.
It's a right-of-way incentive program. Board members, Juan is going to lead this discussion. The board approved a policy for right-of-way acquisition, and there are some opportunities that we want to discuss with you. And I think, Juan, you've got about eight slides or 9 slides, maybe.
I'll try to be
Speak
brief
for-
but detailed, as detailed as I can. Javier's right. On committee members, on February 25th, the board approved the right-of-way acquisition policy that basically adopted the DOT guidelines. as the method or the procedures that we're going to use moving forward on property acquisition on our projects. We've been evaluating all the projects, and we feel that the 83628 project, which is the capacity improvements between 57th Avenue and the Miami River, that this project best qualifies to use the incentive program, which is included in the guidelines that we adopted. The benefits of the incentive program is that we would reduce project time and allow us to accelerate the construction schedule. It would also reduce costs. Incentive offers will yield a reduction in cost in comparison to the standard condemnation process, which includes, it could include substantial attorney fees, appraisal costs, witness fees, court costs, and negotiation costs associated with all that. The incentive offers will be administered consistently through the entire project, so there won't be, we won't be treating any owners differently. It's a process that's already established, and I'll show you in the next couple of slides. All the incentive amounts will be added to the initial offers on all parcels, except for parcels owned by governmental entities. If the incentive offers aren't accepted, then we revert back to the standard process that we would use to pursue the regular right-of-way acquisition for those that don't participate. Here's an example of the table that we use from the DOT guidelines that sets out the parameters on how we set the incentive. So you can see that it's a scale that, the lower the offer amount, the higher the incentive. The higher the offer amount, the lower the incentive, and it's capped at $150,000. And again, this is to accelerate and save more money on the back end by not having to go to condemnation. So we put together a table to kind of show an example of how we would apply this. So on the right, on the left, you see the appraised values under the different categories and where they fall within the over but not over amounts. So in the case of let's say the $40,000 appraisal fee, which falls between $30,000 and $100,000, the incentive would be $13,875 plus 32.5% over of the amount over the $30,000. So the incentive offer would be $17,125. Your entire offer amount would then increase to $57,000, which is a total of a 43% increase. Now, on the flip side, if we had to go to condemnation, that $17,000 incentive fee could turn into potentially $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 when you start adding attorney fees, appraisal fees, witness costs, expert witness costs, and so forth. So what the incentive is going to do for us, it will allow us to negotiate in good faith with the owners, provide them an incentive to sell either the portion of the parcel or the parcel that we're trying to acquire for our project, and it would allow us to expedite the construction to get the job done faster. All incentives will be held open until the date of filing suit, and all property owners will be clearly advised of the expiration of all the incentives. Negotiations conducted after MDX files suit will be based on the established just and full compensation without consideration of the incentives. So once we file suit, the incentives are off the table, and we don't revert back to those again. And to the extent possible, all settlements exceeding the established and just full amount will be plus the incentive will be avoided. And with that, I accept any questions, but we wanted to inform the board that this is the process that we intend to use on the 83628 project to help accelerate that project. Right now, the right-of-way is included in the construction schedule. Basically, the way we're procuring this job is that we're telling the designers or the design build teams that once they establish the 30% line and grade, that's what we will use to go to condemnation if we have to. We want to try to avoid that process. So prior to that, we're going to start reaching out to the owners and providing these incentive offers so that we can try to acquire the parcel sooner. As part of the construction schedule, the contractors are going to consider that right-of-way time period in their schedules. So from 30% plans, they're going to allow for 18 to 20 months before they can build in the impacted areas. The incentive offers will help us accelerate that 18 to 20 months to be able to deliver the project sooner and save money.
Chairman. Yes, Mr. Toledo, is that your presentation?
That's the end of my presentation.
Vice Chair Ferre.
Chairman,
I don't have a problem with the lower figures. I have a concern or a question as to what happens, and I know that in 836 you probably don't have too many properties like that. When you get to $1 million and you're giving them a 25%, that's a lot of money.
Well, if you look at the table,
Yeah, I saw that was
Mayor,
500 and some odd.
the incentive is capped. You will never exceed $150,000 incentive. So
Okay.
any appraised value over the $515,000 is capped at $150,000 with no extra percentages marked on that. So your maximum exposure for anything over $500,000 is $150,000.
Documentation to that
Yeah.
to that effect.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Let me go back to that.
Yeah.
See, on that table, if you look at the table, you see the on anything over 513,500, your incentive is capped at 150,000. So your exposure is never going to be more than that.
I can't. It doesn't say that. So now I understand it. Yeah.
That is very important.
Yeah. Okay. So down at the bottom it says that there's a cap in this standard, and the nation proceed the following: increase the total cost can be at 150% high. Well, where does it say that? I'm sorry, Madam Chair. You said that it was down on the bottom and in small print. But where does it say that it was capped? I see. Okay. Okay.
The formula for the incentive is capped.
Well, the next question that I have is, how does this compare to what the FDOT does?
This is actually in line with what FDOT does. We've adopted in February we adopted the DOT guidelines as the mechanism that we're going to move forward with right-of-way acquisition.
Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah. Mr. Vice Chair, and for the committee members, I think if we can explain this up. We have a project. We went through a PD&E. We identified right-of-way acquisition. We have the ability to do eminent domain. So eminent domain says that we establish a purpose and need for the property. We condemn it through an order of taking, and then if the property owner doesn't settle on the price, we go to valuation. This incentive program tries to incentivize the property owner to sell early and avoid all of that cost, because eventually they'll get paid, but it might be later if we go through a condemnation process.
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez Pena.
I'm still relatively new to this board.
Okay.
What is the?
Is there a statute of limitation to how many times you can say you're new to the board?
What was
We gotta look into that.
the impetus for? Obviously, I got some information already that DOT adopted a policy that I'm assuming has been very successful, and then you guys beta tested it. You guys meaning DOT, and then we decided to adopt that. Was that after them doing this for years, and we decided that was a better formula, and we're now going to this incentive program? Just a little bit of the genesis of that.
Let me go back to February when we adopted the right-of-way acquisition policy. When we came in February with the policy to use the DOT guidelines, we looked at those guidelines, and those guidelines are very commensurate with how we want to move forward with the acquisition process on our projects, because it has been very successful for DOT. It follows a very strict guidelines and procedures that it's very defensible going into condemnation or or using the procedures that we're seeking to do right now. So essentially, we didn't feel that there was a need to reinvent the wheel at this point, because it's a very successful process that DOT has implemented, and I have our right-of-way experts that can talk a little bit more to that. That was the impetus of going with the DOT guidelines. The incentive program falls within those guidelines. Again, after we adopted the policy in February, we looked at all the projects that have right-of-way acquisition, and we felt that this project specifically is best suited to implement the incentive program. We have another two projects that also have right-of-way acquisition, but the impact is not as much, so we don't feel that would be a good approach for us to go on other two projects that we have right-of-way acquisition. We feel that this is the one where we are going to benefit from time savings and cost savings, ultimately because of the impacts that we have along the 836 corridor.
Mr. Toledo, just for clarification, this formula that we're using has already been supported and affirmed by FDOT, and it's survived any kind of judicial challenge as well. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what we're doing is we're using something that's already worked rather than trying to...
Richard Glass with Glass Acquisitions he's dealt with this many times.
Good morning, Mr. Glass.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, sir. Thank you for
Members.
being here today.
Thank you. The incentive program is in the guideline policies, again, that we have adopted. The Department of Transportation does not implement the incentive program on every project that they have. They pick and choose. And in the analysis of the 3 right-of-way jobs that we have now, since 83628 is really acquiring the backyards of residences along the corridor, we felt that getting money in the hands of the owners quicker, faster, and the fact that we're buying backyards is a little bit different than what I call the normal right-of-way process, 4 feet from the front of properties.
Understood.
So that's why this is best qualified.
Thank you, Mr. Glass.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez-Pena, any questions?
Yep. The numbers and the chart that you've created, Mr. Glass,
I thought he pushed me away.
No. Stay right here. We're not going to let you off that easily.
these numbers that are being, the calculations, this was something, I'm assuming, that you prepared that is consistent with the previous experience that we've obtained from DOT?
Yes. The slide prior to this one comes right out of that procedure. This is a slide that just shows the different components on the right hand of the slide, the incentive amounts broken out in percentages. That is the exact procedural table.
Okay, so this was a foundation for your calculations?
Yes.
Okay. And again, it's consistent with proven examples that you've seen, and obviously you're the expert here, so you figure we're not giving more, we're not paying less than we should. It is consistent with what you believe will work and making this process move smoother, save time, and fairly compensate people for their property.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you.
Chairwoman Gutierrez?
Thank you. I see this more as an owner-friendly approach. You're coming in and you're negotiating with the owner early on. You're cutting all the legal angles of them, and they can make a little more, which is, I think, being an agency in the neighborhood, that it is a very good approach that we're doing. You know, it's a major expressway that's there. Let's not say who was there first. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. But we are infringing on, you said, you know, their backyard. So in this case, I find it as a very neighborhood, owner-friendly incentive program. I do have a question on this is, at what time does a property appraisal come in? Has that already been established? Who gets to do it? When do we go and find out what that property is really worth?
Well, we've already begun the process on the 83620 project. We've already started the process of getting the appraisals,
The surveys.
And the legal descriptions, and then we're going to be moving forward with getting the appraisals for the actual portions of the property that we're going to be acquiring or wanting to acquire. Once we get that information, then we approach the owners. All the owners that are impacted have already received letters advising them that we are going to be coming to them with initial offers. So right now we're working that process, and I think we have a lot of that work is happening this month, where we're going to be finalizing the surveys and the legal descriptions, and then we'll move into right away into the appraisal portion of it. So I expect that by the end of the year we should be, or by the beginning of 2015, we should be ready to start approaching all the owners with initial offers.
I'm sorry, if I may.
Of course.
So you're saying that they already have a letter?
That is correct.
They've already received. So
Yes.
they already know that we're coming
That is correct.
and that there's a need, a portion of their property.
That is correct. And any owner that has had any questions, they have been, we've been talking to them and we've been answering all their questions and basically letting them know what the process is so that they're aware, but they know that we'll be coming back and with the initial offers soon.
Very, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I was just going to add that from the authority's financial side, this is a very interesting program, because if you look at a parcel that we're acquiring for $1,000, which is critical to what we're doing, like a lot of litigation, the amount that it costs to litigate these things is not dependent upon the amount in question.
Right.
So that the amount that you're paying to litigate a $1,000 parcel, which is critical, could be the same amount that you're paying to litigate a $30,000 parcel. And what this does basically, and then on the other side, if you are into litigation, you pay not only attorney's fees for the authority, but you pay the attorney's fees for the person whose property we're condemning. So, I mean, $1,000, let's say on a $1,000 piece of property, to pay them an additional $1,000 to acquire that property is so small compared to the amount that it would take to litigate that it's really a good transaction for the authority. So it not only has benefits for the landowners, but it also if it works, if people accept it, because a lot of times people do think their property is worth a lot more than we do. But if they accept it, then we've saved really the authority a lot of money, because we're taking. First of all, we never know we're going to end up in terms of litigation, so that we could end up paying more. Number one, and number two, we're avoiding the appraiser's costs, the legal costs, and also the time. So it's a very innovative program that, especially with these smaller parcels, that really can work out very well.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez-Pina.
A couple of questions, actually. Based on your preliminary assessment, what percentage of let's just say there's 100 pieces of property that are under consideration, have we made a determination where they fall? I can't imagine that there's a property that's worth $1,000 anywhere in Miami-Dade County. So I would imagine that the majority of them would fall somewhere between, let's say, the 20 and 515.
I would agree.
Okay. So I guess I answered that question. Who is the face of this? So we sent out letters, and people have been communicating. Who do they communicate? Who responds? And explain to me, Juan, a little bit about that process. Okay.
It's not so pretty, but it's me.
Okay.
Richard Glass is with our general engineering consultant to handle the right-of-way acquisition portion. He works with Terry Garcia.
Okay.
With public communication. So they basically, both of them together are the face of the right-of-way process. So whenever they set up a meeting with the owners, it's typically going to be Richard and Terry that goes out to the owners and walk them through the entire process.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, bless you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, follow-up question.
Of course, go ahead.
Yep. It's kind of where I'm headed, Madam Chair. Juan, at a personal level, I'd like to set up a meeting to walk me through this at your convenience so I can understand, and I have some additional questions. I don't want to monopolize the day today. Just to finalize my comment, it's really, to me, a concern of a public relations. I think we believe it's a fair formula, and it makes sense from a business perspective, and I think it's a proven formula. What we need to convey is to let the people know that this is a fair, if I'm that property owner, I don't know that this is a fair valuation of my property or a fair process. So I think part of it is conveying that this is a better proposal than we have ever used before, and to let people know that. I think so, Madam Chair, my concern is, again, that people understand that we are actually being sensitive to their inconvenience. The fact that they're going to lose their backyards, I don't care if it's my front yard or backyard, I'm losing property, and that's not a good thing. So my concern is, and that's why I asked the question, how are we handling it? Because it's not going to be a pleasant experience for anybody. And I'm sure other people are going to see it as opportunities, and I think business opportunities, and I think this formula will address that, and attorney's comment, I think, is well presented. But I want to be a little bit more involved, Mr. Toledo, because I want to feel comfortable with the process to make sure that people feel that they're getting fair compensation for their very significant inconvenience, because I don't think we want to part with any piece of our property. And so that's for that purpose.
I will set up a meeting with Richard and Terry, so that we can walk you through what the process is and how we handle every owner. And basically, we want to be consistent, so we're not gonna treat any owners differently. We're gonna try to be, we're gonna be consistent. We're gonna apply the same guidelines across the board, and not deviate, so to show that we're, to basically stick to the fact that we're going to be fair across the process and stay consistent to a process that has already been established.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and we know that, but I think if you knock on somebody's door that doesn't have the benefit of this information, it's going to start off in a very antagonistic environment. And I think the first thing we need to say, listen, this is really a good opportunity and so forth. And that's what really my concern is: how are we communicating that to folks, and how are we doing the actual transition so it's not a cold, calculated business decision. Again, we are infringing on somebody's life and their property. So with that, I'll leave it. I think I've made my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other information? Any other questions?
The only other comment that I would make,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, is that this process is not only communicated to the property owners, but we also keep the elected officials, not only at the municipality, the district commissioner, and the city commissioner that handles the district, aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're communicating with their constituents. So that you know.
And this was just as today it was not an action item; it was a discussion item. So we'll have further discussion about this in the future as well.
Well, again, every acquisition is going to come through the
Thank you, Chair.
this process for approval within the delegated authorities that have already been established by the policy. So as we acquire properties, you guys are going to be informed through every step.
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Anything else? Very good. We have several informational items. I believe they're in our packets. Is there anything in particular that you wish to discuss?
The only two things I'd like to highlight in the package is, number one, both of our GECs, A and B, are meeting or exceeding the small business local participation as of August.
That's great to
I'd
know.
like to report that to the committee on a per meeting basis. The other thing that I would point you to is in your package, item E, in the procurement report, the back page of the package, and this is not only for board members but for audience or anybody who listens, our schedule of courses, technical courses and non-technical courses for MDX for Business, for our small business community, is listed. There are classes that begin in October, run through February. For more information, they can contact the procurement office, Helen Cordero.
Is that open to board members if we want?
The board member feels that an asphalt 2 paving course would be beneficial. Absolutely.
Anything else? Very good. The agenda also shows the future subcommittee meetings as well as our board meeting on the 21st of October at 4 p.m.
Yes, and actually for the 21st of October, the Intergovernmental and Public Communications Committee will be meeting that day, and that day we will be evaluating.
At what time? Because it's not to be determined.
Helen, did we finalize a time for the Intergovernmental Public Communications Committee?
Yes, sir. Right now, I think we're starting at noon, from noon to about 3:30.
We got 3
But we will
proposers.
confirm once we finalize the compliance review.
Right. We've gotten 3 proposers that will have to make presentations, and that's the evaluation process that day.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Anything further? Move to adjourn? Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.